So we made a video a while back going over Ruan Mei, and I explained that you'll be able to use not only Ruan Mei with Bronya, but you'll be able to use Ruan Mei in the same team as you would use Bronya in. It wouldn't really be any different. And following the release of Hanababy or Sparkle, you can pretty much do the same thing. Yo, what up, Toshi here. So we know one or two things following the release of Sparkle, and one of those things being that she's going to have some sort of utility that is from a pre-existing character. Now I'm believing that the character will be Hanya, because it seems the most likely character to have some sort of powered creep version. We look at Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei was a mix of Bronya and Asta, and the only reason why that was the case was because she would be a direct upgrade for players that use these characters. Now what I find very interesting about the character is that unlike Bronya and Asta, or Asta kind of, Ruan Mei has buffs that is dependent on her own turns. So that means all allies are able to take advantage of those buffs no matter how fast or how slow they are, making her really good and very flexible in many team comps. So just like Ruan Mei is being compared to Bronya for whether or not Ruan Mei is going to be a better character than Bronya overall, we have to look at Hanabi as the same case. Well, is Hanabi going to be a better character than Bronya? Because it's going to be inevitable. People are going to compare these two characters. They're also going to compare Hanabi with Ruan Mei. And I just believe that going forward, these characters are just going to be side grades to other Harmony characters in specific team comps. Because it's the best way to design characters going forward of the Harmony path in Honkai style. So I expect Hanabi to follow suit and be a direct upgrade in some team comps, making Bronya a side grade to notably the best comps in the game for those specific characters. Some of those characters being Quantum, and some of those teams where you want to utilize, maybe if she's like Hanya, have those skill points. So for some specific team comps like Mono Quantum, she was the best option you could use in the team. So therefore, she was just the character most people had used in said team comp. But once we do receive Hanabi, then you'll have the best install option for the team. So therefore, Bronya would become a side grade to this team specifically. But there are some characters in the game that you use with Bronya, and you only use her because she is the best option. But if there was a character that was able to provide more utility that is tailor-made for those specific characters, you would just use that character instead of using Bronya. But we learned that you can use Bronya with Ruan Mei instead of just separating the two into different teams, and you'll have the most damage output you could have for some of your hyper carry teams. So therefore, I expect Hanabi to do the same thing. Using Hanabi with Bronya would become the best team for some of those hyper carry damage dealers, like Seal specifically. And that's especially true because some characters like Huo has a lot more value than Fu Xuan in some specific teams. When you're fighting enemies where you're not directly going to get one shot by the enemy, having a character that gives you attack and energy is just going to be more appealing than giving damage mitigation. Although Fu Xuan does give crit rate, that does not make her a worse character than Huo. It's just Huo is better in some scenarios, and Fu Xuan is just more appealing in some other scenarios. Now, I believe one of the interesting things is, what if Hanabi was a actual direct power creep to Bronya? Well, that means she'd be able to use some of the best light cones in the Harmony path, light cones that increase your energy regeneration, light cones that give you skill points to the team, and light cones that give your damage dealers, especially notably hyper carry damage dealers, even more damage output. And if you're able to use two characters that is able to action forward your damage dealer, that means your damage dealer needs 0 speed, and you'll be able to constantly take the turn with that damage dealer. That's a huge deal, because let's say Hanabi hypothetically does give skill points to the team, and that'll make her a nice character to use in conjunction with Bronya, and therefore some damage dealers like Daniel would be able to utilize an E2-like playstyle without necessarily having Idle on 2. Let's say hypothetically Hanabi is not going to be a character that works like Bronya, but works differently from Bronya and being a better version of the character, but has buffs that is dependent on her own turns, just like Fu. Well, then you would just use that character just like you use Fu, with any damage dealer in the game making that character very flexible, but also that means every character in the team comp can take advantage of those buffs, making every character in that team, monocomp specifically, a damage dealer that adds to the overall team damage. And that is especially true when you have light cones like Planetary Rendezvous, giving a damage bonus to the whole team, and you have characters like Fu providing crit rate to all the allies in the team party. That is dependent on her own turns. And then you have Sorowolf, who is providing very nice debuffs to that boss, making that boss take more damage from having lower defenses, lower resistances, and even less defense because of the extra debuff she has in her kit. And then applying that quantum weakness is a big deal for all the characters in the team party, because you just deal so much more damage whenever you have the quantum set if the enemy is weak to quantum. And then there's so many other ways of increasing the overall damage of the team, because now we have planar sets that literally gives further damage bonus to all the allies that is of the same element. So when you take all that into consideration, and then you have your allies buffing each other while also being able to take advantage of all the extra buffs you have from light cones and relic options, then you have everyone in the team contributing to overall team damage. And that makes that team, well, one of the best teams in the game. So no matter if Hanabi ends up being a character that is a better version of Bronya, making Bronya a side grade in specific teams, or a character that works in conjunction with Bronya, she's going to be a much more appealing option to not only use with Bronya, but to use in other teams, because finally we have the Quantum Harmony character that is going to be best in slot in that team. And to be fair, having Ruan Mei be a better version of Asta in most teams, that just means that Asta is just going to be a character that is side grade to Ruan Mei. But let's say that Asta would not have value going forward, because she still is the premier fire buffer. So if you have characters in the team that is of the same element as Asta, we're able to take advantage of all the things I said Silverwolf provides for the team, Bushwan, and the Quantum Harmony character Sparkle, but just for fire teams, making her best in slot for any character that is fire. And that's especially true because you get 18% fire damage bonus for literally just existing on the field at all given times. And if you have Planetary Rendezvous in conjunction with this, you give so much fire damage to the whole team. And she does have buffs that is for the whole team that is dependent on her own turns as well, speed and attack. And look at Yukong as well, being one of the best characters to use in conjunction with imaginary characters. That's why I'm going to be using Yukong with Dr. Ratio, because she is still the premier imaginary buffer. So one of the coolest things is that Honkai Star Rail is moving more towards having characters be side grades, but still have their best in slot teams. And I think that adds to overall flexibility and characters at least still having value. So even though Ruan Mei may just be a very overloaded character, she just has a lot of innate value just because of her kid. There's still going to be scenarios where you want to use some of those other characters like Yukong with imaginary characters, or using fire characters alongside Asta. And I think that's a great thing when it comes to designing overall team comps going forward into Honkai Star Rail. And I expect the same to be for Hanabi whenever you use Hanabi alongside quantum characters. So that means going forward, Bronya will just still be best in slot and hyper carry, but she is going to be the best character in all teams. So there you have it, it's today's video. I really want to make this one for quite a while now, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I don't believe Hanabi is going to power creep Bronya, but just make Bronya a side grade in some specific team comps, because there's still going to be a lot of scenarios where you want to take advantage of all those damage buffs. And this is hypothetically speaking if Hanabi has the same kit as Bronya, but just more value. And heck, you can just use them together, because having two Harmony characters that do the same thing and are of the best characters in the game just means that you'll beat the game even more. So I think that's a plus no matter how you look at it. But one of the things you take into consideration is that Hoyoverse wouldn't make that same mistake again. I don't expect them to make power creep when it comes to designing support characters, but DPS is going to be a different matter altogether, because they, for some reason, just can't make unique DPS characters anymore. That I can't defend. This is going to be the video here. Thank you for watching, and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.